For today's video, we are talking about something that I think is the hardest thing you can do as a guitarist, also the most important thing, a thing that I've had my ups and downs with, a thing that I suspect you have some interesting things to say and talk about too. We are doing
Okay.
How to Be a Happy Guitarist featuring Rhett.
Wow.
It's a heavy concept, but I think like you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of sides of the industry.
Yeah.
You've had ups, downs, success-wise, as have I. And like this is a thing that's, like I said, I think this is the most important thing that we can do. So we're gonna try to come up with like, I don't know, 9, 10, 8, 7 things to think about on this front. I think, yeah.
Oh, I like this.
One of the first things that comes to my mind when I'm thinking about this is that you gotta have an outlet for everything you do.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So like, if you're just sitting in your room practicing, that works for a while, but if there's nowhere to put all this effort that you're doing, then it's gonna feel very unrewarding very quickly.
Yeah, I hate practicing guitar. And I always have. I've never liked just sitting down and practicing. I like to play, but for me, so I need some kind of end goal. I need to be like writing something, or I need to be getting ready for a gig, or I need to be learning something because it's exciting me and it's getting me into it. So
have an outlet for your work.
100%.
So, okay, so when you were younger and maybe weren't necessarily in a band, like how did you use that?
Well, guitar was an outlet for me. That's how it started. It was the only thing I had in my life that I was kind of, so I was terrible in school. I struggled a lot with school. I was terrible at sports. And by all of the metrics that I was being measured against as a kid, I never measured up to really anything. It wasn't popular, wasn't cool, I wasn't good at sports, I was terrible at grades. So guitar for me, until my early 20s, was my escape. It's the only thing that I was like kind of good at.
So it was like intrinsically an outlet in itself.
Yeah.
But you can't use that forever.
No.
Because it was like, in ways for me it was too, but I know like very early on, I started a band before I even had any business of like starting a band, because I was like in my bedroom, like wanting to do something with it and get it into the world. So I don't know, I think whatever it is you're doing, I know for me, there have been times like, well, YouTube is clearly an outlet. So if I'm working on something, I know that it's gonna get out in the world somehow. And it doesn't necessarily need to even be like a big thing, just like getting whatever you're doing out there somehow.
Yeah.
It can be just you're practicing so you can play with the band, go to a jam session, post something on SoundCloud. Is SoundCloud still a thing?
Yeah.
Post something on SoundCloud.
Put something on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like just,
put it out there.
There's a lot of things to unpack from the idea of putting it out there. But to tag on to that, like guitar stopped being an outlet for me when it became my job. Like once I went to music school and decided that I was going to be a musician and start earning an income from guitar, it no longer was an outlet, it was my job. And it's a cool job, I like my job, but your relationship with music and your relationship with guitar shifts when it goes from being your...
I feel like we're moving on to another good point, is like be aware of how your relationship changes.
Yes.
And don't expect it to always stay the same.
Right. It can't stay the same.
So we're gonna say be aware and unafraid of change.
Okay, great. This is a big one, man. And this one took me a long time to learn because I used to feel really guilty like about the practicing thing. Like I thought for a long time to be a good musician, you had to like spend hours and hours a day in the shed and work on things that you might not necessarily like to play or be interested in, but it's what good musicians do. It's like eating your vegetables, so to speak. And it took me years to learn that no, like being technically proficient or being, a virtuoso or knowing all of your theory or your modes or whatever does not make a good musician. And it took me a while to be aware of that like change, like in my head of going from like this is what good musicianship is to now like letting go of that.
I think a lot, like if I'm trying to dive deeper into this, the root of it is like not even be aware of just specifically change, be aware of yourself and what you're thinking, why you're thinking of these things, like mental, in being in tune with why you're making your decisions. So like, you're being aware of the change. What are you feeling with that change? Why do you feel that way? I think is like hugely important to just like overall wellness of guitar and just like life in general. Understanding why you do things, if those things are going in the right place.
And you need to embrace the change. So there's been several big moments in my career as a guitar player where a new opportunity came up that was outside of my comfort zone and that pushed me to become a better musician and a better guitarist. It made me scared, but then I took those opportunities and I did them, and then I got what I needed out of them, whether it was a gig or being in a band or whatever. And there was a few times where I held on to that opportunity too long, and I should have let go and taken the next opportunity, like gone through that next door a little sooner.
Yeah.
Embrace the change.
Embrace the change. I got a bit of a different one, and I think this is one that we all struggle with is, I'm not going to say don't compare yourself, because it's important to compare yourself. Healthy comparisons and that kind of thing to other guitar players are extremely important, because that can go off the rails real fast if you're not, again, mentally aware of like how you're thinking about this, why you're doing this. But healthy comparisons. What would you say is a healthy comparison, and what is a negative comparison?
I mean, a negative comparison is probably what I do most of the time, which is
Yeah, me too.
You watch someone play or you hear someone play and you think, like, can I cuss on this?
Yep.
Like, shit, I can't play that, or I would have never written that, or I couldn't have come up with that video idea, or like, look at what gig they're on. And social media is a big part of this. Instagram subsists on the idea of like putting your best foot forward and trying to kind of show off. And with musicians, it feeds into that like spirit of comparison and jealousy and saying like, oh man, look at what he's doing. I didn't get that opportunity. I didn't get that gig. I can't play that way. So that's unhealthy comparison.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, like, we're not like the shining examples of people who are just like, completely mentally well with all of this.
No.
But I think we've gone around the block enough times to have some at least like valuable advice for this. Because I wouldn't say I only have healthy comparisons.
No.
I think there are such things as healthy comparisons, and I think it's very important to kind of figure out where you stand amongst other people who've put in a similar effort. Because with the root motivation there being like, okay, well, how can I do something if I can't do it? How can I use that as motivation? So if all your peers have been playing guitar for the same amount of time and you think that you're way behind them, you don't want to just turn a blind eye to that. You want to think about, okay, well, what am I doing different? Am I truly behind them, or have I developed in different ways? But you want to be having those thoughts, looking at what's around you so that you can use that as motivation, but without letting that get you down too much. And it's a very tough balance.
There's two sides to this though that will help keep you out of the depths of like anxiety and depression.
If I need to go quit my guitar because that guy is so good and I'll never be that good, what am I doing with myself?
Yeah, dude. You sound like my internal monologue. But first thing is you have to realize that nobody, especially in the music industry, the guitar industry, whatever it is, no one has the same path. Yeah. Not even close. Everyone's path is completely different from where they started in music, what their influences were, their access to instruments and education and music. Like, did their parents play? Did they take lessons? All this stuff. To where were you? Who do you know? Like, no one, you can't look at someone who's got the gig that you want or has the chops that you want or whatever and say like, well, they got this and I didn't, so therefore, like, it's just not that simple, because everyone's path is different. And the second part of this is you have to define success, and you also have to, going back to the first point, define success for yourself and then embrace the fact that that definition of success will change and should change over time.
This one.
Like, when I started playing guitar, I got out of music school, my definition of success was touring with a band, playing shows all over the world, and playing like arenas and stuff like that. And it didn't take very long for me to realize, like, I got close enough to that goal to sort of see like, oh, this isn't actually what I thought it was gonna be.
Be willing to adapt.
Yeah.
Is that a point in itself?
Yes, be willing to adapt. That's a big one. So, okay.
Well, this is all just success in general. Like, to find success, you gotta do this, and often success is tied in with happiness, so.
Right, because especially when you're young and you're getting into this, your idea of success, you more than likely, like if you're working at this consistently and you're dedicated to this, more than likely you're going to reach that level of success earlier than you think you will.
Yeah, I got an extension of this, so keep chatting.
Right? And you'll be kind of the dog that caught the car in a way, which is like, okay, I got here, now what? But if you're constantly growing and learning to adapt and embracing that change and what your definition of success is, you need to be open and willing to accept the fact that like you might not get where you thought you were going to go, but if you keep following that rabbit trail, it's probably going to be a bigger and better place than you could have imagined when you were like 18 and getting into music.
I got a big one here. This is one that has taken me a while to learn. Success, whatever that's defined as, when you hit those goals, doesn't necessarily correlate with happiness, true long-term happiness, at all. It can be intertwined in there, but a lot of like through my life I've said, oh, if I could just play guitar like that, I'm gonna be happy. If I can just make a living playing guitar, I'm gonna be happy. If I can get 1 million YouTube subscribers, I'm gonna be happy. And so a lot of these things, I've checked them off, felt pride in them, but I didn't necessarily feel a whole lot different when they happened. And even if they did happen, whatever happiness, dopamine hit came with those, it wasn't sustained. So I think, and this kind of ties into an even bigger thing, is like finding happiness through everything, not placing it all on music or your guitar is so extremely crucial.
Yep.
It's a tough balance though, because you kind of have to have a single-minded focus to like get to that next level, but I think it's so important to have other things in your life that bring you happiness and joy and fulfillment is a big one too, besides, not just guitar, besides music.
Yep.
So that can be family, that can be relationships you have, it can be a dog, it can be cooking steak and feeling pretty good about what you cook, but like having other interests outside of music. And I think one of the things that we see a lot in our industry is like a lot of people who are fully devoted to that, like the stories of like Steve Vai practicing for 30 hours a day. That's not sustainable for any period of time for someone who wants to be well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, going back to the spirit of comparison, just because someone like Steve Vai does that doesn't mean that you should also do that, because you and Steve Vai are different people with different experiences and different brain chemistry and different personalities. And, you know,
maybe there's periods of life where you can do that, but you got to know that that will not always be the case.
Exactly.
I just can't imagine there's a lot of people out there who aren't wired completely differently, who practice guitar 30 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
5 hours a day for their entire life, who have prolonged happiness. I can't imagine.
Unless them practicing guitar for 5 hours a day is their escape, and it's like what keeps them centered and is their thing.
Maybe, let's say 8 hours. Like all they do is guitar, and they don't have anything out of that else besides that. I can't imagine that person could have a prolonged joy and wellness in their life.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, when
get out there and cook a steak too.
We're talking about music here, which is art, which is expression, which is having a voice, which is having a
Go play with your dog.
Having experiences to pull from and to share.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not just the technical proficiency in your instrument. Like, yes, you should get to the point where you have technical proficiency and you have an understanding of the instrument and understanding of sound and your gear and everything. But at the end of the day, that's just another tool in your toolbox to be able to say something, because we are musicians, we are artists, we are trying to say something, or we should be trying to say something. And you can't say anything if you haven't experienced life.
Love, the pursuit of happiness and freedom.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a thing that's worthwhile understanding about practice and guitar in general. So you have fun. There's a lot of stuff that's really fun. You have work. And then you have work fun. Well, I guess that's implied by the Venn diagram. That's the crossover there. I don't have to write that. So this is how it works, and I think you need all of this in order to make this whole thing work and be happy. So you need to have the things that are just purely fun, that are just pure, intrinsic, inherent fun. It could be playing a show, it could be whatever that is. You need to have that. Most of it, I think, is in here, where it's work and fun, and sometimes you're balancing those two things, but they're both of them. However, you also do need a little bit of this time too to really get anywhere, I think, with this,
Yeah.
where you're doing the hard work, the stuff that isn't actually fun.
And I think this feeds into this because if you can set yourself up to be in a place where you're working towards something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I love making videos. I don't always love the process of making a video. There's a lot of tedious work that goes into it, but there's also a lot of satisfaction that goes into it because at the end of the day, like you're leaving with having created something that didn't exist before you went in there.
So maybe this whole thing represents satisfaction.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
It can't all be fun.
No. And if you want to grow the whole thing, you got to be doing all of it.
Yeah. But
Even
you
at
can't
times, like-
just work the whole time either.
Yeah. Most of it's going to be this weird gray area. Don't expect it to only be this.
Yeah.
Don't expect it to only be this. And if it's only this, you're probably doing it wrong. If it's only this, you're probably not growing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the growth of the whole thing, the satisfaction ties in to happiness.
Okay, I have another one too.
Nice.
Realize this is for the younger players out there. There's no rush. You are
Patience.
probably going to be doing this in some way, shape, or form. By this, I mean playing guitar for the rest of your life. So this was one I really struggled with, especially in my early to mid 20s. I felt like I had to become like the best guitarist I was ever going to be by the time I was 25. And that I had to be making huge strides in my playing and my business. And
Well,
my
because all you
musicianship.
hear is about Derek Trucks, who was a slide god at 13, Joe
Right.
Bonamassa, who's this prodigy at this age, and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, if I can't do that, and I'm already like 25, I'm screwed.
Yeah. But
Not
the
true.
thing is, like, I'm
There's no
33. I am in a completely different place as a guitar player than I thought I wanted to be at 23. Like, the musician I thought I wanted to be at 23 is nowhere near where I want to be now as a musician.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to be different by the time I'm 43 and 53. But I'm going to play guitar and make music as long as I can physically hold the instrument and play the thing.
And I think this is the bigger idea here is embrace the journey,
Yeah.
because it kind of ties into that thing where success doesn't equal happiness. And that's one of the things I realize is that it's actually the journey that needs to be fun, because if it's not, then it's all not worthwhile. And it's a hard thing to do, to embrace a journey. It's a
Yeah.
really hard thing to do.
Yeah, because all we picture is the finish line, like getting there. But there is no finish line in this. You're never going to stop learning guitar or music. You shouldn't. You can't. You're just going to keep going.
And the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah.
And so whatever your goal was 5 years ago, it's like you get to the top of a hill and you realize there's a mountain. So you climb up that one, you realize there's another one. And at some point, you've got to just accept the fact that you're never going to get to the top of these things, but you better enjoy climbing mountains. And if you don't, get a pair of skis and go the other way.
Yeah. The real guitar is the friends we made along the way.
Side note, who do you like more, Rush or Journey?
Journey.
Jenny hates Journey.
I hate Journey.
I like Journey more too. I'm not a big Rush guy.
I can't do Rush that much. I just can't. Sorry. Sorry, I know you're Canadian and that's like.
No, I'm
against
not a
your-
huge Rush guy either. Big Neil Young fan though.
Oh,
like
yeah.
diehard Neil Young.
I mean, isn't that legally required by all Canadians? Like you have to.
If not, it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, come on.
Okay, let's do another one. That was a good one. How the hell am I going to edit this down to 10 minutes? We're just spewing out pure gold.
Oh, you don't need to edit it down to 10
Maybe I'll make
minutes.
this an hour one.
Okay. Gear is fun, but at the end of the day, it's just a tool for a job.
Yeah, so a healthy relationship with gear acquisitions, because
Yes.
like it's a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Getting a new guitar makes you feel really good. Buying a new guitar, it's a rush. Like accumulating things
Yeah.
is like wired into our brain to tell us, I got a new thing, good, keep doing that. But it's a short-term satisfaction.
Yeah. And you shouldn't spend all your time watching YouTube videos and gear reviews and gear demos. That would be like a carpenter spending all their time looking at hammers instead of actually building something. At the end of the day, you got to pick up your hammer and you got to build something. A guitar is a hammer, a pedal is a saw, an amp is a something else, some other tool.
Do you have you figured this one out? healthy relationship with gear?
I think I have recently, yeah. I think when I was younger, I was much more like enthralled with gear, and especially like the idea of vintage gear. But because of this job, I've had the opportunity to play a lot of vintage stuff, and I've realized that a lot of it just kind of sucks. Like a lot of vintage guitars just suck. Now there's some truly great instruments out there that I've played and connected with, but the idea of something being vintage being better is not necessarily the case. And oftentimes it's actually worse. And at the end of the day, it goes back to this idea of like, what are you trying to say? Like, does Jason Isbell need Red Eye, that 59 burst, to write the songs that he does? No. But understanding that that tool is part of what inspires him and gets him excited to get up and write those songs and play that music. I mean,
I think everyone knows this though, but what's so hard is that the tangible, quick rush of getting that, pressing that buy now button, getting that thing in the mail, opening it, like that's, it's hard to override that dopamine hit. Because you don't get a ton of those quick, fast ones like that in music. Everything else you gotta work for. The gear ones you don't have to work for really. Well, I guess you literally have to work for and pay
well, the
for
way
it,
I look at it is like, I think of it more as like a journey. Like, so it took me a few years to find my Les Paul, right? And I tried a bunch of them. But when I found mine, that was like, it was more than just a quick dopamine hit. Like there's a story there, and there's
it
like,
meant a little bit more than just
it's
buying it.
Exactly. There's something of value there beyond just the guitar. But at the end of the day, it's like, the gear does matter because that guitar does a thing.
We're here at Sweetwater looking at a catalog that says Pro Gear Selects right now.
Here's the thing though, like the gear matters in the context of when I pick up that guitar and I play it through a specific amp, through a specific fuzz pedal or whatever, I'm inspired to play a certain way, and that inspires me to have a certain voice. So it matters in that context. But like the fact, does it have nitrocellulose or polyurethane finish on it? Does it have 42 gauge plain enamel copper wire in the pickups, or does it have nickel or chrome plating on the pickup covers? Like that side of it, the long term doesn't matter. It just doesn't.
You know, I've got, I don't know how many guitars I have. Over 50 probably. The one that I've been playing the most lately, and it's the one that I saved up for and bought when I was 15.
Yeah.
My Telecaster reissue, which it by no means is the most valuable one, no means is the most impressive one, but I just go back to that and I look at that and I see like, oh, I can see all the wear that I put into it. Every single thing on that is from like all that time that I spent playing it. It was with me at like every stage of the musical journey, and that's the one I care about.
Yep.
It's not the most expensive thing I have or that new thing that came in. And I think like I'm really happy that I have that kind of guitar, because it means a lot more to me, and it ties in that whole thing of just like a deeper satisfaction with all of this stuff comes from relationships and things and experiences. Experiences mean more than a lot of all of this. Like the experiences music and guitar provide you are, to me, more important than the music and the guitar itself.
100%.
Cool, that's a good one. What did we just stumble across here? What did I just say?
The experiences
I was
are what
like
matter.
in a blackout zone of pure inspiration. The experiences?
My best friends in the world, like people that I'm closest with, have come through music. And my favorite experiences that I've had have been some way, shape, or form tied to music, whether that was being on a gig or coming to things like this. Like, genuinely, one of my favorite things to do every single year is to go to NAMM. Not because of the trade show or because of the gear or any of that stuff.
Or because like I'm hearing, like I'm going there to listen to this and listen to this and listen to this.
No, it's because I get to hang out with you and Paul and Mary and
Who's
Adam.
not going to make this list? I want to find out.
Oh, God, okay, I got to stop it there. But no, or Tim, like...
Okay, there's a couple more that haven't made it yet. So don't draw attention to it.
Now I'm going to be thinking, I'm going to wake up tonight and be like, oh shit, I didn't say.
But then I totally agree with you. Is like, what's the best musical things? At least at this stage in my life, like it is really fun to play in front of people, and I have a lot of pride with some of the things that I've made. But the things you make don't matter as much as like the experience of making it and the people you meet and the things you do with them.
Yeah. That's the reason to do this, man.
Yeah,
it's like
it really is.
you meet so many great people. If I didn't, like, I never would have thought that starting to make YouTube videos would have led to the friendships and the relationships with so many amazing people that I have now. And it's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Straight up, it's my favorite
And I
part
think
of this job.
if you told yourself that at 16, you wouldn't believe it.
No.
Told me that at 16, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have been just like, no, I want to be Led Zeppelin, I want to be Jimmy Page, I want to conquer the world with my guitar. But you look at like a lot of these guys and like, man, I don't know how happy they were. Extremely successful, some of my favorite musicians of all time, but I guarantee you they struggled with this exact same concept. There's a reason why like they get off the road and you take the music and the rush of the playing for people away from those guys, and like there's a lot of substance issues and struggles like that. And I think in realizing that, it's made me realize to look for some of those deeper things, meaningful things in this journey.
I have one more.
Okay.
And it's inspired by my friend Philip Conrad, who's walking up.
Yep.
Embrace the limitation.
Did we do this one?
Embrace limitations? I don't think we did this.
We embraced something.
We did
but
embrace
we
the
can
change.
We can embrace many things. So
Yes. I think at least in my experience, your best creative output comes from working within limitation. And that can be a lot of things. It can be working with what you have access to, gear-wise. If it's one guitar and one pedal.
And not
one
like
amp.
always wanting more.
Right.
The desire for more, and this is something that's very hard to overcome. And I'm like, I'm not great at this.
No.
We always want more. All of us want more. We want more followers. We want more views. We want more gear. We want more everything. But embracing what you have.
Yeah. And use it and embracing that limitation and making what you can with what you have will probably be a better end product than trying to get more stuff to be more inspired. Because yes, gear inspires me. The ability to use these tools does inspire, but getting that new guitar, that new pedal is not going to make you a more inspired musician or a better player or a better writer.
Or
any
just
of those
generally
things.
happier.
No.
Which is kind of like the root of all of this. And I think, hang on, I got a thing coming to me. I got distracted. I lost it. Okay, I think this is what I was trying to come up with before. Actively wanting to be a happy guitar player.
That's a
It
big
doesn't
one.
just happen.
No, you gotta want it.
Seek joy. So like, if you don't actively like I think just like thinking about this stuff is a huge part of it too. Because I know like it took me a while to be aware of a lot of this. I would just, in ways, just go without even being conscious of like how I'm feeling about it, how my life is looking. It was always just get better at guitar, build a career. Without nothing else matters besides that.
Yeah.
And as that happened, this ties into my success one, but as that happened, I realized it felt like a hollow pursuit. And so that instead of necessarily seeking and single-mindedly going towards your goal, throughout that process, also seek joy and know that that thing that's going to provide that is not just you're going to get it, you're going to be good. It's a weird, ambiguous concept that you just always kind of have to be working on.
Yep, that's one I'm really struggling with right now. Like it's constantly just like gotta get on to the next thing, gotta build the next, like gotta make the next course, gotta get more subscribers, gotta make the next album, gotta do all these things, and I'm really bad about stopping and.
And what happens when you hit that and you?
It doesn't matter,
yeah.
dude. I it's not that it doesn't matter. It doesn't satiate the way you want it to. Like when I was starting off on YouTube, I was obsessed with the idea of 100,000 subscribers,
same.
and I worked so hard. It took 2.5 years, I think, something like that, to get to 100,000. And the day I hit it,
it felt exactly the same.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I saw the number tick over, and it felt good for a moment, and I was like, oh, well, it's not 1 million.
I hit the 1 million, and that's the exact same thing I went through. It was like, this is really cool that I finally hit this, but like, I feel the same way that I felt yesterday.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah, now what?
And then the brain's like, well, 10 million. But I've just made an effort to maybe try to catch myself sometimes. And again, like I'm not great at a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is just like actively working on it. You don't get better at guitar if you don't practice. You don't get better at feeling happy if you don't work on it. Just take a second to just be aware of it.
Practice.
Easier said than done.
Practice gratitude.
Practice gratitude. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, that's how you can be a happy guitarist, according to Rhett and myself. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
find Rhett at the link that's probably in the description. If you want to check another video like this one, there's a link somewhere. If you haven't subscribed to me, there's a link somewhere. Thank you all for watching. Till next time, look after yourselves, look after each other, look after the planet. I'm Samurai Guitarist.
Oh, I'm Rhett Shull.
I'll see you again soon.
That was a really good sign off. Take care of the planet? Yeah, man.